And so begins a new evolution in my training. I start to use RPE scales using the RTS training system, a reactive training system. RTStrainingsystems.com, I think is the reactivetrainingsystems.com is the website. I'll leave a link in the description. There's a link for the chart that's used. I have seen a lot of powerlifters use this chart as a way to auto-regulate their training. And you can see most of my sets are here at 9.5 and 10. You'll see, but I'm learning how to use it, and I kind of like it because it's a way to auto-regulate, because that's kind of how I feel like the way training should be. I mean, you should go based on feel. However, it tends to be very subjective, and if you don't have a good training focus or training goal, it's not something that's for people that are not focused, that train hard. But I think it's a really good way for people to train so that they can figure out kind of works for themselves, because I think one of the hardest things about training is, at least for me, I feel like I train too hard. And what I mean, or I don't say I don't train too hard, I train too frequent, and I do too much volume. So I know I can train harder, but what I do as a kind of consequence of training, not training, because I don't train as intense as I could, I try to train more volume to make up my lack in intensity. And I think that's really what's giving me some problems, like overuse injuries, lack of recovery. And I think I'm better off just training super hard for a single session instead of trying to make up sets on other days and trying to fit with things when I can. And there's no predictability in my programming. I think one of the most important things in training is that there's got to be some sort of predictability. And if there's no predictability, you never know how you're going to do it meet. I think that's what's really important. If you don't know how you're going to do, how do you know when you're going to be your strongest? And that's kind of the idea of all kinds of programs. Especially just think about martial arts, think about other sports like the Olympics. You want to prep yourself for specific events, and you want to make sure that you're training appropriately. You have certain times where you taper, but you also, when you're in the thick of things, you want to have an idea, track all your stuff in a way that makes sense. Because to me, what I've figured out, or what I've learned, is that 275 doesn't always feel like 275. 405 never feels like 405. Some days 405 feels like 315. Other days it feels like 500. I mean, this could be any lift. It could be squat, bench, or deadlift. Of course, I don't bench 400 pounds. But my point of saying this is that, there's so many different ways to kind of manage your training. And sometimes when I feel really, really good, I train super, super hard. And then when I feel really, really bad, I still try to train as hard as I can, but then I end up just getting shitted on and feeling pissed off. And at least with this RPE scale, it gives me a better gauge for how to manage my training sessions. Here's some wide grip bench after my slingshot and my pause bench. So you can see, kind of back talking about the training a little bit, kind of what my training program consists of for bench is sort of a hybrid from what I learned from the Dan Green seminar, is that what I'm doing is I'm doing pause bench competition bench 2 to 4 sets, something similar to what you might have seen Brandon Campbell do in his training programs for bench press. And then after that, you do some touch and go bench. And what I've done is, instead of doing regular touch and go benches, I've decided to do slingshot benches so I can overload a little bit, focus on getting volume that way, and also work on my lockout, because the slingshot gives you help at the bottom but not really much at the top. And then, of course, I do a little bit of wide grip bench. And then I do a little bit of close grip bench. And I go wide grip after touch and go, because wide grip emphasizes chest, takes away some of the triceps. And then after doing some wide grip, I go to narrow for close grip, so that way I can focus back onto the triceps. And that's kind of what my program consists of for bench. It takes about 45 minutes to do with rest periods. Here is some bent over rows. And I was kind of running short on time, so I kind of had to rush through this. I usually do some rear delt work along with some rowing work. I try to get rowing work at least 2 or 3 days a week. I just fit it in there. There's no real specific day. I'm doing drop sets here with some rear delts. Actually, yeah, drop sets. What I do is I do some rear delt flies with 15 pounders, as many reps as I can. And then what I do is I just drop the weights and I just use my arms and just get some blood into the area and see if I can stimulate growth or just activation, because with all that benching, you want to make sure you have a healthy, balanced shoulder. And if you don't take care of yourself and you don't manage it, it's gonna hurt. It's gonna give you problems. I was actually having some AC joint problems on this day. My left AC joint feels a little bit tender, and then I burn out with some band stretches or band flies. Kind of just what I use for a warm up, but I also like to use it as a workout, as kind of like a finisher. I do this for about 4 rounds. It doesn't take me very long because the rest periods are about a minute. And then just because I was circuiting here, then I fit some pendlay rows here, same thing, 225s. And I mix things up, The whole idea is you're just trying to get development. These are not really competition lifts. They're just really meant for building strength and just building up other areas so you have a balanced strength balanced physique, I guess, but also improving muscles that support your main lifts in powerlifting. So anyways, hope you enjoyed the video. If you have any comments, leave a comment below, and I'll talk to you guys on the next video.